All right, NFL honors are over. Those are like the Oscars of the NFL season. At least that's how they formatted. And we can confirm that Nick Bosa is the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bosa wins in landslide fashion. Take a look at the voting summary for NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Bosa, 46 first place votes. Hassan Reddick, 2. Quinnen Williams of the Jets, 1. Chris Jones, 1. This is a reminder to everybody, myself included, because I was just sitting here tracking this kind of stuff. I didn't partake in it, but remember just a few weeks ago, everybody was saying, oh, Micah Parsons, easy winner, plays for the Cowboys. Nick Bosa's not going to get a fair shot at this. Or the people that were saying that Micah Parsons should win Defensive Player of the Year were saying that Nick Bosa has no shot. Micah Parsons didn't get a single vote. So why don't we just wait for this stuff to play out before we make these knee-jerk predictions, reactions. AP Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa, 46 votes. Micah Parsons, no votes. And I'll tell you what, this was a deserved award for Nick Bosa. This is, I mean, I think it's so important to put this into context because those of us who have watched Nick Bosa since snap one in the NFL know that he's been awesome since the very, very beginning. Very first snap against Tampa Bay in 2019 in that season opener, Nick Bosa popped off the screen. It was him and D Ford coming off the edge, especially that first third down. You knew that this guy was sensational right away, at least in the talent department. And it translated right away to an awesome rookie season. It revolutionized the 49ers edge rush. The 49ers have been awesome defensively every single season that Nick Bosa has been available, and they were bad defensively relative to how good they were in the other years, the year that he wasn't. I mean, it's easy to take this guy's talent for granted. He's a machine built to rush the passer. But what shouldn't be taken for granted is the fact that Nick Bosa has refined his pass rushing skills over his 4 seasons in the NFL to the point where he's much leaner than he was as a rookie, yet he's stronger. That's made him more flexible and it's made him faster. He has diligently worked to get to the point where he is now the best defensive player in the NFL. He started off as one of the best in 2019. He entered the league as one of the best defensive players in the NFL, but people would still tell you, oh, somebody like TJ Watt is better. People would still tell you, oh, his brother, Joey, is probably a little bit better than him. You cannot say that anymore. Nick Bosa is the best defensive player in all of football. He led the NFL in sacks this season with 18 and a half. He set a career high with 98 pressures. He was stout against the run. He was a leader for the 49ers. Nick Bosa and Trent Williams would hang out at Trent's locker after every single game. That's a big feature story I wrote this year. And they would dissect what just happened. And they would set the tone for the 49ers, not only in both trenches with their leadership, but, you know, that spread out to the entire roster. It was a roster full of all pros and pro bowlers. That really was special this year for the 49ers, and Nick Bosa caps it off with Defensive Player of the Year honors. Elsewhere in the NFL honors today, Kyle Shanahan second in the Coach of the Year race, 12 first-place votes. The New York Giants, Brian Daboll, 16 first-place votes. So Shanahan, a close second, not too far behind Daboll for Coach of the Year. DeMeco Ryans won in a landslide, 35 first-place votes. For Assistant Coach of the Year. Ryans, former 49ers defensive coordinator, is now the head coach of the Houston Texans. And you might be saddened to know that he has poached another 49ers staff member. Not one that you might have expected, though. Nick Cray, who carried out the boombox for the 49ers when they did their grand boxing-style entrance to all those road games, and I guess also to the home games, but it was more pronounced on the road. Nick Cray has been hired to be the Texans' chief of staff. So he has followed DeMeco Ryans to Houston. Ryans wins Assistant Coach of the Year today. Brock Purdy was third in Rookie of the Year voting, which to me is sensational. Brock Purdy went from number 262 out of rookies, if we consider his draft status, right? Mr. Irrelevant, number 262, to number 3. That's a big jump. That is some rising stock over the course of the season. And we saw that story unfold right in front of us. So with that being said, let's take a look at the NFL honors summary. I'm going to put this up on the screen so you can see all of the individual awards today. Patrick Mahomes, MVP, is going to be playing against the Philadelphia Eagles for the Lombardi Trophy on Sunday. Justin Jefferson of the Vikings, Offensive Player of the Year. As I mentioned, Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year is Garrett Wilson. Brock Purdy came in third there. Defensive Rookie of the Year is Sauce Gardner. Comeback Player of the Year, Geno Smith. Giants head coach Brian Daboll is the Coach of the Year, and Kyle Shanahan was third in that voting. Defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, formerly of the 49ers, honored as the Assistant Coach of the Year for his work with the 49ers, and DeMeco certainly deserved that with how well the 49ers defense adjusted through changing times. Turned that into a coverage over rush unit this year. Pass rush devolved a little bit. 49ers are going to try to restock that line this offseason, but they were the number one defense under DeMeco Ryans because they were balanced defensively. And, I mean, they were a linebacker-oriented unit, and obviously Ryan's a former linebacker, coached them well. Finally, the Walter Payton Man of the Year, Dak Prescott. So those are the NFL honors. And how about we talk about George Kittle? I think that George Kittle deserves a recording contract right now. This was Kittle at the NFL honors. Let's take a look.
Yes, our season's over. And yes, that last game blew. But Brock, you should still feel proud. We wouldn't be there without you.
Aw, that's nice.
And Christian McCaffrey. Dude can run, catch, and pass. But I prefer Nick Bosa. Throwing Prescott on.
Soon.
'Cause we belong together now. Yeah. Forever united here. Somehow. Yeah. You got a piece of me.
Yeah.
And on this life. My life.
His life sucks.
Without you and all you guys too. Thank you. Thank you, Callie.
Oh my God.
All right. So, I mean, I tweeted at the 49ers already. I said, you better play that during pregame warmups, at least for the season opener at Levi Stadium next year. I get it. I guess the first words, the first lyrics there were our season's over. So you don't want to play it too often. But maybe to start the season next year during pregame warmups, a nice 30 to 40 second George Kittle song would do it. Nashville, obviously wearing off on him. The singing talent, maybe not up to standard, but I thought it was hilarious. Christian McCaffrey was there cracking up. And, it was a good, relevant song that noted the disappointment the 49ers have for losing the health at the quarterback position against the Eagles. And Brock Purdy was there too. Made everybody laugh while he was at it. So, NFL honors today. That was the summary. Could add this to the stream one more time, but we're going to pop open the Nick Bosa article. I wrote the 5 moments that cemented Nick Bosa's Defensive Player of the Year season. That is in the description. I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat section. Kittle being a star. That's what Mike says. I agree with that. But right now, why don't we talk a little bit more about Nick Bosa, who wins Defensive Player of the Year in a landslide. He went off twice against the Rams, restored order against the Raiders. He pushed Colton Miller back into Jarrett Stidham with the bull rush. Didn't even touch Jarrett Stidham, but forced Colton Miller to make the contact. Great example of how a pressure can be even more valuable than a quarterback hit or a sack. The goal line stand against the Saints. That was awesome. And there's video throughout this whole article, so you should definitely subscribe and check it out. How about the playoffs when he recovered the fumble forced by Charles Omenihu? Now, Omenihu, he forced the fumble, but Bosa initially beat Charles Cross around left tackle to force Geno Smith, your comeback player of the year, to step up, and that allowed Omenihu to make the acrobatic strip sack, and Bosa then notched the biggest fumble recovery of his career. And then we had the video of Nick Bosa seeing Joey Bosa, surprised by Joey Bosa ahead of the Cowboys game. Take a look. This one. So you can see right here, Bosa's walking in. You can see how happy he is when he sees his brother Nick. This video a little bit earlier, he's just like beaming when he's where Oren Burks is standing. I only uploaded the last few seconds of it, but look at Joey. You could see Joey's shirt. It says squishy, and they have an octopus there. The Bosa family calls sacks squishies. So 18 and a half squishies for Nick Bosa this season. And he was surprised here by his brother Joey Bosa. Didn't expect him to be there on the way from the locker room to the field at Levi Stadium ahead of the playoff game against the Cowboys. So we can keep on playing that. The big bro hug. Joey Bosa congratulates Nick Bosa, who was in an 18 and a half sack season. Cool stuff for the 49ers. As far as the Hall of Fame goes, no Patrick Willis, at least yet. And here's my take on that. Zach Thomas made it, the former Dolphins linebacker. And take a look at the resumes of both Patrick Willis and Zach Thomas. Thomas, five-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. Patrick Willis, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. One of those guys is headed to the Hall of Fame. The other isn't. Do I think that's particularly fair to Patrick Willis? Hell no, it's not fair. It took Patrick Willis only 6 seasons to reach those accolades, while it took Zach Thomas 13. So it's one of those things where is it that Patrick Willis is being penalized for retiring a little bit early after year 7 in his career? Obviously, Zach Thomas showed some real longevity. Possibly. Mike made a good point, though. Mike was really upset that Patrick Willis did not get selected to the Hall of Fame. And he said, well, Megatron, Calvin Johnson, came into the league at the same time as Patrick Willis. Also had a short career, was retiring by age 30, and he was first ballot into the Hall of Fame. So is it an offensive bias? Possibly, because Calvin Johnson didn't win any Super Bowls with the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Patrick Willis didn't win with the 49ers. So it could be a bias against defensive players combined with a bias against players who had shorter careers. Obviously, you see Zach Thomas get in, but Zach Thomas had a longer career. Either way, disappointing that Patrick Willis, who was the best linebacker in the game over the course of the half decade plus that he was in the league, has not yet been honored with an induction into the Hall of Fame. Now, it should be noted that Zach Thomas, this was his 4th year as a finalist. Patrick Willis has only been a finalist twice. So there's always next year. We could say that about Patrick Willis if you're disappointed over that at the end of those NFL honors. All right. Anyway, maybe I answer a couple questions, but I do have to summarize. Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year. It was a landslide. It was worthy of an article. That article's up on The Athletic, which is also up on the screen now. Shanahan, 2nd in Coach of the Year. D'Amico Ryans wins Assistant Coach of the Year. Brock Purdy, 3rd in Rookie of the Year. From number 262 to number 3, not bad at all. Why don't we open it up to some questions? See what you guys have. You guys may not have too many questions here. It's an awards show after all. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to type some down, and if not, time for me to call it a night. Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year. Does Drake Jackson have the same desire and work ethic as Nick Bosa? We'll find out. Drake Jackson just found out what the NFL is all about in his first season. Now he gets to apply what he learned to how he works. It's the glory of the freshman to sophomore transition in the NFL. What am I eating for the Super Bowl? That's a great question. Depends on which party I go to. I'm going to have a Super Bowl prediction tomorrow, by the way. That was Mike's idea, too. And I'm going to have a video explaining a lot of the Eagles fans and Eagles media, too. It's kind of embarrassing. You got a lot of Eagles media just trying to, they're like searching out 49ers tweets. A lot of them followed me, and they still do. I appreciate that they still follow me, I guess, even after the game. But they'll like quote tweet you, and they think they have some kind of dunk. when you tweet something about Nick Bosa or something, today it was something about Nick Bosa because it was Defensive Player of the Year day. And the Eagles people think that somehow the 49ers defense didn't have a good game at Philly. The 49ers defense had an excellent game at Philly. They have it really, really twisted. I think they're really defensive because they don't like that the reasonable consensus is that the quarterback situation aided Philadelphia's victory. I mean, it obviously did. Any objective person will tell you that. But they think that Philadelphia tore up the 49ers defense. And Nick Bosa, the Eagles averaged 3.8 yards per play. That's bad. That's objectively bad. It was the worst total of the season, or the worst average of the season for Philadelphia. Against any team with a functioning QB, you don't win at 3.8 yards per play. So it's one of those things where Philadelphia is, I think, trying to create a different narrative after this game because they don't like we just backed into the Super Bowl narrative. But sometimes the truth is the truth. Sometimes, you benefited from playing a team that literally didn't have a healthy quarterback in a modern pass-happy NFL. Anyway, I'm going to make a video about that, just talking about some of the statistics and some of the DNA of that game, which suggested the 49ers would have been in much better position had they had a healthy quarterback. I know it's like 2 weeks after the fact, and I can't believe that we have to talk about this because I thought it was common sense when the game ended, but maybe I should have been talking about this sooner. Social media always has a way of making you say stuff that you thought was common sense, but I guess it's not common sense. So then you have to make a video about it. So, I'm sure a lot of you will enjoy the video. We're going to do that this week. Mike mentions the 49ers lost their boombox guy. I mentioned that earlier in the show. Nick Cray, he is now the chief of staff of the Texans. So the 49ers will not have him moving forward. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So many people trying to say the 49ers defense got torn up. It's like you didn't watch the game or you don't know what to look for when you're watching. You don't look at the scoreboard unless you're talking about complimentary football. So, of course, we look at a scoreboard to determine who the winner of the game is. But if you want to have an intelligent discussion about defensive performance or even offensive performance, you look deeper than the scoreboard. You look at efficiency. You look at, okay, how did the offense help or how did it hurt the defense? How did field position, special teams help or hurt the defense? And, that's what I'm going to talk about in the dedicated video tomorrow. The 49ers defense, the simplest way I could put it right now is they let up only 3.8 yards per play to the Eagles. They only gave up 121 passing yards to Jalen Hurts. Without a healthy quarterback or Josh Johnson was healthy for a half, right? But without Brock Purdy and with Josh Johnson playing as poorly as he was playing, the 49ers defense was holding this at 7-7 and then 14-7 for a really long time. It's after enough stalls from the offense and punts and cumulative defensive fatigue, that's when the wall started to cave in. But even when they caved in, 3.8 yards per play for the Eagles. Only 121 passing yards, only. So the 49ers defense, that narrative that they somehow struggled in Philadelphia to a level that you could say that the Eagles were pushing them around just isn't true. Yeah, they're individual bad plays. Javon Kinlaw getting kicked out here. And I think Mailata might have gotten Nick Bosa once, but happens to every NFL team and in every NFL game. If you cumulatively grade the 49ers defense, they ended up the season strong. Just look at Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir. They gave up 2 catches for 16 yards against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And that's combined over the course of the whole game. So this was more about the 49ers losing their quarterbacks than it was about the defense struggling in Philadelphia. Mike wants the 49ers to hire Jason Verrett as the boombox guy. Wouldn't that be wild? Dr. Disrespect as the boombox guy. All right, I'm going to go, we'll do some more good videos a little bit later. Just wanted to cover NFL honors here. Thanks for all your questions. Nick Bosa wins Defensive Player of the Year in a landslide, and we will talk to you all shortly. Everybody take care. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, as always. Weekend coming up, and so is the Super Bowl.